وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. In today's class, inshallah, we'll be looking at Ali radiallahu anhu's bravery, specifically when it came to the many battles that he participated in alongside the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Last week we touched on just a little bit about this bravery that Ali radiallahu anhu showed from a very young age. The scholars in Islam, they say Ali was about 10 years old when he became Muslim, about 10 years old. And shortly after that, he is the one that is taking the place of the Prophet ﷺ when it comes to the hijrah. He is still considered to be a young man, followed by the big battles that happen when after the hijrah. First and foremost, you have the battle of Badr, where the Muslims were so few in number, facing such a large army, that the Prophet ﷺ made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying, "Oh Allah, if this group of people are destroyed, if the Muslims do not get the victory in this battle, then there will be no one left here worshipping you." And with that sincere dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent His support and His help to the Prophet ﷺ and to the Muslims in the form of angels coming down and supporting the Muslims. One customary thing that the Arabs used to have was just before a battle would take place, they would send out their best warriors or soldiers to fight one-on-one. And when the Battle of Badr came, the Mushrikeen sent 3 of their best fighters to show how good they were and to get a moral victory before they thought that they would get that final victory. And the Prophet ﷺ chose, out of all the people, he chose Ali radiallahu anhu, his own cousin, a young man at that time. And the reason why the Prophet ﷺ picked him was because he knew of his bravery. Ali had already proven himself before, and the Prophet ﷺ knew that he would do so again. And when the Prophet ﷺ chose Ali radiallahu anhu amongst other companions, Ali brought back that victory, which gave in turn the Muslims hope that this battle could be won. After that battle, when it comes to Uhud, where the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims almost faced defeat, and we touched on the things that happened during that battle in the past. There was a time during this battle, the Battle of Uhud, where the Prophet ﷺ was cornered, split off from the rest of the companions. And so the only ones that stood firm with the Prophet ﷺ during that very, very difficult time were these companions such as Abu Bakr and Umar and Ali radiallahu anhu, amongst a few others, that they protected the Prophet ﷺ to the best of their ability. When you fast forward and you look at the Battle of Khandaq, where Salman al-Farisi radiallahu anhu gives the advice to the Prophet ﷺ to build this trench, the Khandaq, when the army comes and they see this new strategy that they are not used to, this is a new type of warfare that the Arabs were not used to, they say to the Muslims, taunting them, that if they are men, for them to send someone out to fight the one that they deem to be the strongest amongst them. And again, who steps forward? Ali radiallahu anhu. And then during this battle, when the mushrikeen, they see Ali and they see how young Ali radiallahu anhu is, they start laughing. And they think, definitely, this is an easy task. But Ali, again, he proves his bravery. He does not flinch, and he kills the opponent, and it turns the battle in the favor of the Muslims, and it proves that the Muslims have and will keep having the upper hand against the mushrikeen. And you'll see the same trend time and time again. Another such day is the day of Khaybar, where the Prophet ﷺ specifically, he said, who will take this raya, the flag of the Muslims, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give that person victory. And the Prophet ﷺ described that person who would take this flag as someone who loves Allah and Allah loves them. And it's not a minor thing. But the companions, they understood at the same time the responsibility that comes along with it. It's not just honor to take it, but you have to fulfill and you have to do what it takes. And again, the person who steps forward is no other than Ali. An interesting point here is that this is not the only time that Ali has held the flag of the Muslims. Back in the Battle of Badr, the person who held the flag was the companion Mus'ab bin Umair, another very young companion. And he was, Mus'ab, as we know, was martyred. He was made shaheed during that battle, and the person who took the flag after Mus'ab was Ali radiallahu anhu. So Ali, you see time and time again, he proves himself worthy of this closeness to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Similarly, you have on the day of Hunayn, Ali radiallahu anhu, he is there with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and bringing that support to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I wish to just pause here, because as we mentioned in the past, when you look at the successes of someone, it is very easy to think that this person is just who they are. This is Ali radiallahu anhu. Of course, he would fight and he would win, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him victory after victory. But we need to ask ourselves, why? Why? What makes him so special from other people? There is a reason behind it. And the scholars, they've highlighted, like with the rest of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the reason was that they worked on themselves. Behind closed doors, when no one could see them but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would be the same people in public as they were in private. And this is a crucial thing. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to when He says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. Or when Allah Azza wa Jalla says that Allah Azza wa Jalla is with those who believe and those who have taqwa. This ma'iyya, it comes in many different ways. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides the person, keeps them firm on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, and when push comes to shove and things get difficult, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there with that person, helping them through that moment in time. So the point here is for us not to just be starstruck by these companions. You know, when you hear about someone who is so amazing, I remember reading an article a while ago, and they were talking about this one individual who reached a very high rank in the military. On top of that, he was a very specialized doctor, surgeon, and on top of it, he was also an astronaut. He was going out to space. All these three things, when you look at it, you think, oh wow, and you get starstruck. But what got that person there? What was it that made him reach that level? The honest truth is, many hours of work, many hours of study, that motivation that kept that person going. And in Islam, when it comes to being a good Muslim, it is no different. Add to that the mix of the addition of the intention. That when it comes to Islam, it is not only enough that you only work hard. What is needed is this niyyah, this intention. And I say this because, again, when we look at the lives of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the point of all these stories is for us to try to implement some of these characters, these traits that these people had. So when you hear Ali radiallahu anhu, his relentless support of the Prophet ﷺ, then it should be a reflection. We should be looking at inwards at our own life. What are we doing for the sake of this religion? How are we being useful? How are we serving Islam and the Muslims? And we should not be like those people who just hear the stories time and time again. Everyone here knows the story of Ali radiallahu anhu. Everyone here knows the story of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. Everyone here knows the stories that we are told from a very young age. But what makes the difference is the implementation, the action that is often lacking. The scholars in Islam, they used to say that they would teach their children the story of Abu Bakr and Umar specifically these two. They used to teach their children about Abu Bakr and Umar. Why? Because yes, they want the future generation to understand the sacrifices that these men went through, these people went through, to have love for those companions, and also to try to reflect in your own actions some of these qualities that they possessed. So Ali radiallahu anhu, he was with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam up until the very last moment. And after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was standing next to those who were tasked with the leadership at that time. And the part of the thing that really made Ali's Kholafaa very difficult was because he took after Uthman radiallahu anhu, who we mentioned in the past, was martyred, he was killed. And now this created a split in the Muslim Ummah. Ali had his vision. He knew what he needed to do in order to progress as a Muslim nation. However, and understandably so, many Muslims, they felt that the first task that needs to be done is to bring and hold the murderers to account. And this caused the initial clash. You have Ali on one hand saying this is the way that we're going to move forward, and those who were related to Uthman radiallahu anhu saying, before you do anything, your first task should be to hold those people accountable. And unfortunately, this division, it kept increasing. And today we won't go into detail, but in the next class, inshallah, we'll break it down. But what ended up happening was the companions taking different sides. So there was one side, a group of people who sided with Ali radiallahu anhu, and there was a side that opposed Ali radiallahu anhu, and they took the side of Muawiyah and others, and this led to physical warfare. And this highlights a very important point, is that this shiqaq, or this division, the tension, it does not bring any good. Never has it brought good in the past, and never will it bring good in the future. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, for example, وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ, that finding a common ground, it is always the best option, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this as the Creator, who has the ultimate knowledge. So when we look into our past, we know the harm it creates. We've seen it time and time again. So the aqil, the person who has understanding, is the one who does not repeat the mistakes of the past, whether it is on a big stage or within our own lives. Many of the misunderstandings that happen, they can be solved very quickly. When people meet and people talk and they have a conversation. But what adds fuel to the fire is when people avoid each other and they rely on second-hand information, and there's a messenger in between. You know what this person said this and that, and then you tell the person, well, pass this on to that person, and so on. So, not only did the expansion of the Muslim world come to a halt at that time, but it caused these companions who lived with the Prophet ﷺ, saw the Prophet ﷺ, interacted with him to physically fight one another. And again, there's another benefit here. It shows that no one is perfect. If you have the companions of the Prophet ﷺ taking swords against each other, this is a very serious thing. Even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran, radiallahu anhum wa radu anhu, that Allah Azza wa Jalla is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah. And all of them, whoever is a companion, will end up in Jannah. This is the belief of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that all the companions of the Prophet ﷺ all end up in Jannah. However, if you have something that serious, you can understand that something like that can happen to those who are lesser than the companions. It does not mean that we use it as an excuse, that we say, oh, the companions made a mistake, so we will make a mistake. But it is to understand that mistakes happen, and the Muslim is the one who one day remember, or when they are reminded, they seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the shaitan and their evil actions. So inshallah, we will stop here today.